mentioning how we need to invest in education with the kids to get our workforce kind of up to par. What do you think is the role of business in order to get basically everyone up to snuff for that? Because I mean, like, I used to work in the community college area. I used to work with those welders, trying to get them in there. How should we as a community, business community, for example, do that? I mean, like, that can be a question for any of us.
There are a lot of great examples of we'll call them business education partnerships across the country that vary across the board, from the simplest adopt a school thing where literally a business says, I'll send my people and we'll help that school, to things that are far more elaborate that actually change the very fabric of how public education works in those communities. It depends upon the challenge in each of those communities, the leadership, elected leadership, particularly on school boards, and then the appointed or hired leadership in terms of the superintendent. You all know that we've just recently gone through a hiring of a new OPS superintendent. And one of the things that encouraged us about her experience was that she has continually approached the business community in a partnership and collaborative mode, not to say, I just need money, but rather as true partners at the table to try and identify what the skills are, how we can develop those skills, how the business community can engage those districts in doing things better than they've been doing. I mentioned South Carolina schools were horrendous when we were there. They were typically 48 or 49 out of 50 states in their public education. Matter of fact, North Carolina schools are so much better because 20 years ago they fell below South Carolina and their legislature said that'll never happen again. I kid you not. And so they passed the anti-South Carolina education bill and went forward and actually improved the quality of education in North Carolina because they were so embarrassed that they were worse than their neighbor to the south. It was a bad situation, but we realized that there are some great examples there where the business community does some things really, really well, and some things we shouldn't be. We're not very good at teaching. That's not us. Now, we do training every day, but we don't teach kids, kindergartners, how to do welding. That's not what our job is. But boy,
that's illegal.
That's
Yeah.
not in China. That is another way. We won't go there. But we do run businesses really well. I mean, think about what a school district is. It's a huge business. It's a $400 million a year business. They have HR functions, they have purchasing functions, they have transportation functions, they have facilities functions, they have all the functions that happen in a normal business. And they also, by the way, have this thing called teaching in the middle that everything is supposed to support. Well, we've seen examples where business communities literally come in and reinvent how schools function on the business side, which frees money up to spend it on the education side. I could spend an hour talking about how those things happen, but suffice it to say that there are some great roles on the operations side. The business community can say, we can help you do best practice stuff because we do it every day, and our people can show your people how to do it too. On the education side, I think there's a lot of it has to do with understanding what you're trying to achieve from your education system, and being understanding as well, are you effectively investing the money that you spend per student? And how then can you make sure that you're addressing individual needs of students that will ultimately then address the needs of the community? Now, I know schools aren't about producing robots that end up in the business community, but in the reality, every kid that's going through K through 12, at some point or another, is probably going to end up working for one of our members or one of our companies. And we've got to get them prepared for that. And there are, again, countless examples of how businesses who have said, we are engaged and willing to be engaged in that process, have worked with school systems to identify that basic skill set, to help them figure out a way to do continuous improvement, to figure out goals and objectives that schools need to meet in order to be successful meeting the needs of businesses down the road. And one of the things about Nancy Sebring that's encouraging is that she's been there, done that, and expects to do that here as well. So we are really encouraged. We were as involved in that process as we could be, although not as much as we would have been happy to be involved. We've been supportive of her as a hire, and will continue to be very, very aggressively supportive of them trying to turn some things around in the district that really need to be turned around. And I think we similarly need to challenge Westside and Millard and Gretna, that just because they're good doesn't mean they're good enough. That they can't really rest on their laurels of being a nice school system. Good is the enemy of excellence, and we need to make sure we're always striving for something better. And all of those schools need to be engaged in trying to make sure that their operations are better. So the business community can help a lot. We have to be invited in. If you're not invited in, you can kind of force your way in, but that's kind of ugly. And I don't think it's necessary at this point. I think we've got an opportunity to kind of